You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers, but we got Dakota. What's going on, Dakota?
What's up, Ryan?
What's up, dude?
It's Dakota, that nerd in Tennessee. So you just mentioned imposing tariffs on Miami for taking all of our players, and dude, that was one of the funniest things I ever heard. Yeah, you know what? Every time they take a player from us, we need to take a third of one of their 7th round picks, and I think we should retroactively impose it. And we've already got 3 players over there at least, right? So I think, do coaches count? We'll count coaches. So we at least got a 7th from them that they just hand us for taking our free agents. You know, that sounds fantastic. That was the funniest freaking thing I ever heard. But yeah, you know, you're getting all these jag-offs of...
Well, there's a bunch, there seems to be a trade imbalance, and, you know, we just need to fix the trade imbalance. I don't know what that means, but I'll pretend that I do, and I'll just say that.
The week, people, suggestions, nominations, I guess.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't quite know what to do with it, but you've been talking about doing, you know,
I'm supportive.
Something modeled after the Dundies, you know, Packernet After Dark awards. Maybe we should call it the Packernet After Darkies. The Darkies,
Don't.
Maybe not the Darkies. You might not want to sit in that volcano and call it a sauna. What about the Packernetties? The Netties! Look, okay, listen, the Packernetties. Now, I don't introduce myself as that nerd for no reason. I might not. I'm still learning about football, and I'm kind of whatever slow. But I mean, Nettie is from in Sanskrit, which is like the Indo-Aryan, the ancient, and what's it called? Sacred religion of like Buddhism and Hinduism, and the you know, the people that do yoga really think that they're you know, Buddhists.
This was a much cooler idea before you explained
that. Use Sanskrit words for the poses that you fold yourself into. Anyway,
yes,
Nettie is like reaching sacred enlightenment of some sort, if I remember correctly.
I don't like the idea.
But yeah, so the Packer Netties, it really means 2 things. It's a physical and ego purification.
Mm-hmm,
that's what it means, if I remember correctly. Maybe look that up.
No.
But I am that nerd for a reason. So yeah, the Packer Netties, man. We're all looking for physical and ego enlightenment. Listening to Packernet After Dark, dude. You are doing the Lord's work, sir. Anyway, peace out.
I can get behind the Netties, but we can't tell anybody about that thing with the Sanskrit or whatever, if that's all right with you. But yeah, you know, we'll figure out the Miami thing. We'll figure out the Netties. We'll get it going. Dakota Part 2.
Hey, Ryan, that nerd again. I was listening to your latest Packernet After Dark that was posted, and the title of it said Burning Cox, and then other things talking about Brenton Cox. And I was listening to the whole thing thinking that somebody was going to be like, oh yeah, can't wait to see Brenton Cox running around with his hair on fire. He'll be burning Cox. I don't know. But I've said that several times on your podcast now, so let's see if it gets tagged. But no, I think it might have been a typo. Was it a typo? Or did I miss it? Because I listened to the whole thing, and I do not remember a reference to a burning Cox. But anyway, all right, peace.
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but you know, I'm sure it made sense at the time, and I went with it. I have no idea what we're talking about here. TJ in Alabama, save me.
Hey, Ryan, TJ from Alabama.
What's up, dude?
Listen to Packernet and Garrett. Want to appreciate his calls with a little bit of sarcasm and stuff like that. But he also brought up, which I don't think he was being sarcastic with, as far as Good potentially trading some of the capital that we have in next year's draft for this year's draft, and you kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, and well, at least that's how I took it, and I definitely would tend to agree that I don't think Goody is planning on doing that at all. If anything, I think he plans on trading picks to gather more picks. Goody loves his picks. He says he loves his picks. And in all honesty, it's worked out pretty well for us in the drafts. In a couple of the recent drafts where a lot of the Dobbses and the Doms and whatever, I think we had like 11, 12, 13 draft picks for a couple years
It's
there.
like 3 years in a row, yeah.
Not only do I think I definitely think this year he was protecting those comp picks, that the free agency was absolutely paying attention to those comp picks. I think next year is going to be the exact same. We have additional free agents next year, and we may re-sign some of them. Well, probably won't re-sign others. I think he's going to be in protective mode next year as well. We're going to have more money to spend, so he may go in a little bit more big game hunting if that's appropriate next year. But I think he's going to try to load up on comp picks the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And as we lose the Quay Walkers and the Dobbses and next year as we potentially lose a Wicks or a Reed or whatever the case may be, and then you have Jordan and Micah, where their cap hits obviously are going to go up quite a bit, and the cap will go up as well, so it's not that big a deal. But I think Good absolutely wants to bring in as much young, fresh, cheap talent as possible. I mean, that's always the case, but I think the plan for the next couple of years is minimal free agency, paying a lot of attention to the comp picks, swinging as big as we can in whatever we think we need, and then loading up as much as we can with the draft and let it all shake out from there. So, don't know, but Garrett, I don't know if you were wanting to do that or thinking we would do that, but I don't think so. I think Goot just wants to load up on picks. That's it. Go Pack, go. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't entirely poo-poo it, I guess, as you put it, but I think it's just a matter of what would the Packers do, I guess, and I was just trying to put myself in Goot's shoes, more or less. But I think you're probably right. It's interesting because I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I was trying to make sense of it. Why are all the, we're a draft and develop team. We draft you, we develop you, and then we pay you. And we're not paying these guys. And I like I said, I more so felt like we were doing something wrong without actually knowing what it is we were doing wrong. And I forget exactly where it was, but somebody had kind of mentioned the fact that it's, because he had those 11 player drafts for several years, that we just have a surplus of players. There's only so many people you can put on a roster, and so that was kind of the point. And so I was like, oh, that's I can't just really have a fully fleshed out opinion on that. I don't really know exactly what to think, but I can at least kind of understand it now and say, okay, all right, fair enough. So that's kind of what it is, and that's kind of cool. It is interesting to kind of take it to the next step like you did, where it's like, well, what if we kind of cycle this thing through again? So you have these heavy drafts, and you benefit by having multiple swings. And with those multiple swings, you're going to have, hopefully quite a few good players. If everything, best case scenario, you have too many good players. And you get to the point where you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want and which ones you want to walk out the door. And then the extra added benefit of that is the ones that walk out the door provide you with comp picks. And what do you do with the comp picks? You end up with another massive draft season, whether it's 11 or what. And, ideally in a perfect world, you just keep this cycle going. You have these kind of ebbs and flows where you have, 3 in a row of 11 picks. You have those 11 picks. You hopefully draft relatively well. You have some success with those players. Then when it comes time for contracts, you pay some and you let some walk out the door. The ones that walk out the door provide you comp picks. With those comp picks, you have another 10, 11 draft, and you just do it over and over and over and over and over again. Now it's going to be really hard to sustain, but it is kind of cool to think about just in theory. And even if that is a theory, you can at least sit here and go, I mean, we're doing it so far. We're going to have it for 2027 for sure. And then, who knows what ends up happening in 2028 with, comp picks or whatever the case may be. We'll see what happens. There's just for tomorrow, we're going through kind of different thought exercises and whatnot. And the question came up, do you let Jaden Reed walk? Now, that seems absurd to me, but if there are questions about wide receiver and, we pay Christian and maybe Golden is more of a slot guy or whatever the case may be, you could probably let him walk. He ends up going out getting paid $20+ million a year to go be a wide receiver somewhere, and you end up getting a pretty solid pick out of that while still having a good wide receiver room. Could possibly do that with Wicks as well. I don't know what he would fetch you, but even if it's kind of a later round, a lot of those 11 pick seasons were like 3 7th-round picks, so it's not like they're all, you're piling up at the front of the draft. But, Reed or Wicks or, whatever else, as some of these guys end up walking out the door, on top of any additional trades that can bring you some compensation in 2028. I mean, Reed is another option for that. I don't think that makes even less sense to me, but, let's, as a thought experiment, say that could be a thing. Problem is we'd have to do it this year prior to the trade deadline is the reason it seems very complicated. But same with Wicks. There was already talks this year about that, about, getting phone calls and possibly trying to work out a trade, and that may still happen. That could be a, pending the draft, if we end up getting some guys. So let's move them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I again, this is all kind of a new thing to think through, and I don't know that this is what Gutekunst is doing, but you can kind of see the vision of it and go, oh, okay, that's not the way we typically do things, but it is a way to take advantage of an unusual situation and hopefully have it become like this self-sustaining ecosystem, where 11 picks turns itself into 11 picks, which turns itself into 11 picks. It's just a matter of can you do a good enough job drafting to have enough guys that you're benefiting your roster long-term, and then also finding guys that can provide you those comp picks. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that it would be cool if they could pull that off, and it would be interesting. And I'll keep that in mind. I already recorded tomorrow's podcast, but I'll keep that in mind as we continue through the roster and look at different guys and say, who could possibly provide us some 2028 comp picks if we let them walk out the door. Good thought, though. Appreciate that. All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back. We got our less.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? It's Arles.
What's up?
Excuse me.
So, dude.
Over here, talking on these popcorn chips, man. So, normally between when free agency dies down, and leading up to the draft, I kind of hibernate, right? I kind of hibernate in that space.
Sure.
And then I hibernate in the space where, like, training camp is over, or mini camp is over, and we're waiting for training camp, right? Whatever. But I've been pulled out of hibernation because I don't know how true this is. I'm hoping you can tell me. But Ed Policy is considering selling the, what was that? Oh, wait. Ed Policy is considering selling the naming rights to Lambeau Field. This has to be fake news. I've seen it all over Twitter, even from some legitimate sources, but I'm just hoping you can clarify. Did he really say this? Because if so,
well, that's why I kind of did the episode that I did, because I'm seeing, the problem is people put together articles with these clickbait titles on them. And so unless you do the investigation and find out what exactly was and wasn't said, which wasn't easy because there was multiple layers to this. You find articles written which are referring to a Pro Football Talk article, because he was the one, that was the main one. But even he was just referencing what? It was some sports business insider website that did an interview with Policy, and that's where the actual quotes were and everything. So there was a ton of clickbait, And then that kind of turned into conversations, and people are being fast and loose with what was and wasn't said. And so, yeah, things like that started getting said, that he's, contemplating or is planning or whatever on selling the naming rights to Lambeau, which is not what he said.
He needs to be fired immediately. I mean, immediately. I can't even think of a worse thing you could say other than we're going to move the Packers that you can say to the Packer fan base. Other than you're going to sell the right to Lambeau Field. That is insane. It makes me think like, man, we had football guys in that position before. Mark Murphy, football guy. Now we got a lawyer in there. And I'm just like, is this what we're going to have to deal with? We're going to have to worry about this guy making, the most profitable decisions. I don't even know if it's the most profitable. I mean, you could open up a stock right now. I'll buy 2 shares today. You know what I'm saying? We have ways to make money. Selling the naming rights, I think that will hurt the team more than anything. That is going to piss off the entire fan base. But maybe I'm just, going off the deep end. I'm running my mouth and this whole thing is fake. But, yeah, let me know if it's real. And then if it is real, let me know your thoughts, man. I'm pretty sure I know what they are, but love to hear it. Bye.
Yeah, so that was not really what was said. Now, you could certainly get upset at the fact that he didn't say it was off the table. He just said that that's not something they're looking to do right now. In other words, it was directly asked, could you do something like this? And the answer essentially was no. That was honestly the real answer is no, we're not really looking to do that. So, again, you could certainly get upset at the fact that it wasn't more definitively shot down, that it wasn't like we will never do that. It was we're not looking to do that right now. But again, at the end of the day, we're kind of nitpicking at that point. It's the answer was no, that they're not looking to do that. What he did say is that they might be looking to explore naming rights of other things. So this could be like the practice field or different businesses and whatnot within Titletown. Things like that might start being sold. And I'm sure that'll start rubbing people the wrong way for the same reasons. Seeing him as somebody that's just looking for, pardon the interruption, for, profit and whatnot. But again, I tried to lay out in the article the necessity of it and the fact that you're going to have to get creative and find ways to generate revenue like all the other teams are doing. And the Packers are at a bit of a disadvantage because they do have a fan base that expects more than all the other 31 teams out there do. And so it's a balancing act. But again, I don't think Lambeau, just like I don't think Lambeau is going to get a dome, I don't think Lambeau is going to have its naming rights lost. If it does, I would be a little bit less concerned about policy and more concerned about how bad of a situation are we actually in here, because that's a drastic step. So, again, I think it was more precautionary. It was more of a, right now we're good. We have a plan for the future. Not only are we okay now, but we have a plan to make us okay into the future, and that plan does not include changing the naming rights. But I also think policy, he's upsetting a lot of people with the stuff that he's saying, but I also appreciate what he's saying because he's not beating around the bush. I think a lot of the other guys gave us a sense of false hope, even though we shouldn't. We should know very much how tenuous the situation is. Policy since day one has been very open and candid about how tenuous things are. Although the problem is, and maybe this is his whether it's being naive or his approach or whatever. The one problem with being open and honest is that people don't usually get the unfiltered message. This is one of the things I've learned. I think I've mentioned before. I was very open and very much on board with we should get all the information out. All the government information should just be sent out. And the more I watch people try to interpret the information that comes out, the more I realize, no, you should just keep everything a secret. Don't tell us anything, okay? Because we're idiots and we don't know what we're talking about and we're fighting over nonsense and this is a disaster. Just keep hiding everything from me, okay? It's fine. I don't need to know. I've learned nothing. I've gained nothing. and it's just made everything worse. Just keep hiding everything from me, from all of us, because we're all idiots, and this is stupid. So maybe we would be better off with policy just going, yeah, dude, it's all good. We're rich, and it's crazy. It's good times out here. Yeah, Aaron, what's up?
What is going on, Ryan?
What's up, dude?
Aaron here. We just got a massive, we were told that it was going to be 12 to 18 inches of snow, but really we got more like 7 or 8 here in Minnesota. Probably parts of Minnesota got more, but we didn't get that much. Anyways, I'm calling because on the Packernet After Dark, there's been these people that have been calling in to nominate the Jagoff of the Week.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I feel like I should call in with the Jagoff of just ultimate Jagoff.
Of all time? Yeah, for sure. Why not? Let's get crazy.
And for this, you have to go back all the way to April 29th of 2005.
Wow.
Fair Winds and Following Seas is the title of the series finale. Season 10, episode 22 of the TV show Jag.
Okay.
I don't think you can get more letter of the law
Okay.
than being a Jagoff than the send-off of Jag. Apparently NCIS is a spin-off of Jag. But I'm not counting that.
Right.
That is
course.
literally the definitional Jagoff right there. Season 10, episode 22, series finale.
Yes. Clearly.
Of the absolute banger hit TV show of the late 90s and 2000s as far as military goes.
Sure.
The match at that point I think was done.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I never watched it. I know that there's a character on it
Definitely
named
watched
Radio or Radar or something. I don't know.
But
But yeah, Jagoff. That is it right there. I don't care. You got Adam Schefter. Yeah, he can count as one. But the ultimate, man, when I think of Jagoff, I think of that. I've never seen it. I think I saw a couple episodes of Jag growing up. That was one of those shows that was on. And I just never watched it, Mm-hmm. I think my grandpa was watching it at one point.
Yes, literally. Same here.
Yeah. Anyway, other shows like that, I don't know. Can you think of any shows that were from the late 90s, early 2000s that just kind of were on? And I don't know I don't know, Days of Our Lives. I never got into Saved by the Bell. I don't know. What else didn't I watch? The Bears? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just needed to call in with that nominee for Jagoff of the, Jagoff. Anyway, peace out. Go Pack, go. And hopefully you didn't get too much snow. Bye.
Well, it's another day, and we draw another day closer to me genuinely believing that this Jagoff thing is a bad idea, because we've reached a new level of what the heck are we doing here. I appreciate the nomination for sure. I don't know what we're doing anymore, but I will consider the show Jag and the series finale of the show Jag for Jagoff of all time or something. I'm guessing you're a little younger than me if I had to guess, just because of the timeline. Because I remember my mom watched MASH, and that would have been late 80s, early 90s. And then Jag, I remember my grandpa watching when we'd go to my step-grandpa or whatever, my stepmom's stepdad. Guy was a jerk. But anyways, I remember he was always watching Jag, and I never understood it. He'd be talking about Jag, and I'm like, young kid, all I knew about Jag was a jerk. So I'm like, freaking, this guy's a Jag. I was it's the weirdest thing ever, but he liked watching Jag. I don't know. But yeah, that would have been as I was a little bit older, probably. But I don't fully know what we're talking about.
Hey, Ryan. This is Aaron again. I was not planning on calling back, but that's how it always goes. Is you don't plan on calling, but then you do. I don't know. Anyways, Sorry, I'm driving, trying to merge right now because most people don't know how to merge. So I got to
Sure.
pay extra attention, but I'm talking to you. So I'm not paying attention. Anyway, Packers-related call, Aaron. Packers-related call. So we obviously went out and made a few moves in free agency and whatever. Like, I just find this, like, I think we did good. I think we upgraded, actually. I think I'm happy with everything Goot did. And I just think it's really funny, right? Like, if another signing happens, cool, like, I'd be very happy about that, like, but then you get all these fans that are like, Goot never does anything. And then we go and trade our silence for, like,
Hello. Okay. Let's try this one.
I am assuming I hit the 3-minute monster, but that did not feel like 3 minutes.
Yeah, something happened
But
there.
anyways, they go out and sign Javon Hargrave, and then those same fans are like, you need to sign some players. Like, right now. Why have we not signed anyone? It's like, bro, we did. You did sign people. Like, what do you want Duke to do? Like, do you want no other single team in the world to get anybody? Like, do you want Duke to sign like Lionel Messi? Do you want Duke to like call up Cristiano Ronaldo and be like, hey, bro, come play for the Packers? We need a kicker. I mean, I would be totally cool with that, but I think that he would cost more than like
Be
the
about
entire
$1 billion,
salary cap to
yeah.
get him for 1 year.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's like these fans, they're just literally never happy. Some of them. Some fans just like unless they get like the top of the top, unless we bring like Aaron Donald out of retirement, like they're never gonna be happy, you know?
Right.
Like it just bothers me. But anyways, I've taken up enough of your time, and you probably have a billion calls. Cause you do be skipping them sometimes, and I don't know what's going on right now. I haven't eaten anything today, so I probably am making no sense.
It's all good.
I've had a ton of coffee, though. That's not a very good combination, but I do work for a coffee company. So, yeah. Anywho, I'm going to shut up now and let you go. And I'm going to just take a roulette guess on who's calling after me.
Okay, that's a good one.
Jared the Uber driver. You're up, bro.
Let's see. Is it Jared?
Hey, Pack Daddy. A little bit more of a coherent call than the last one that I'm glad did not make it through.
It's Bruce.
I was all over the place on that one, but I took some notes, and I'll try to get through it kind of in this little 3 minutes to help you answer, but I took some notes down just saying after 2026 off-season moves, we've got Hargrave, Franklin, St. Just. I still think the Packers need to bolster that secondary, add some edge rushing depth after their losses, and obviously get a backup QB. The defensive line needs depth. The offensive line, even though it seems like it's set, needs some sort of competition for these guys to push them quite a bit. On the cornerback depth, I mean, St. Just is fine, but I think they need a little bit more reliability in that secondary because we need to push Keyshawn and Carrington a little bit. So that's a place of need. Edge rusher, same thing with Rashawn and Enigbar leaving. I think we need more talent for a pressure standpoint to help kind of rotate through. Obviously, the backup quarterback, we'll see. Hopefully they do like a veteran quarterback. I like Anthony Richardson, maybe let him resurrect his career. He seems kind of similar to Malik. Then defensive line depth, I mean, Hargrave is strong, right? And he's a good addition, but losing Colby Wooden in the trade was still pretty necessary to kind of attack that. I think that'll be their number one. And then the offensive line, signing Sean Ryan. I mean, we only have one pick in the top 80. So it's going to be value, right? So what are your thoughts in terms of how you think they're going to actually target this draft? And I know they're best player available, blah, 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 but I think defensive line, cornerback, a quarterback at some point in the draft or bringing in a veteran. If they don't bring in a veteran, looking at that in the draft. So what are your thoughts, man? Take care.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the interesting things that going through a little bit on tomorrow's podcast, kind of asking these sorts of questions. I know Beer Cheese and some other people have been talking about running back, and I think the more I looked at it, I thought, there's something to be said about that. in terms of, Josh Jacobs. We got to make a decision on Josh Jacobs pretty soon. And so obviously the Packers being the Packers and just any, rational and football team, whatever, you'd rather not pay $16 million if you can find a guy that's better than that on a rookie contract, or if Marshawn Lloyd can prove something finally. So that obviously is going to be the goal. But if they don't trust that, do they take a swing? How early of a swing do they take? I don't know about defensive tackle. I mean, I know for sure that there's some room for improvement. But I also know that some teams, and Gannon may play a bigger part in kind of pushing this as compared to what the Packers have done in the past. But I feel like the Packers have always viewed nose tackle as just kind of being an thing. It's kind of a throwaway deal. Like we'll grab one in the 7th round or something. It's no biggie. So we'll see. I mean, if they end up going early, which, I can't promise you it would be because of Gannon, because it's also just a very deep and strong, like heavy nose tackle class. So it's possible it could just be that the Packers would have done that anyways. It's as a take what the draft gives you kind of a thing. But that may kind of inform what's going on as far as what, whether it was Gannon kind of pushing it or what. Corner, I still think is going to be a big one. That's the one Gutekunst has been hammering on since day one. So I would be surprised if that's not, priority A. That doesn't mean that that's their first thing, because, it's take what the draft gives you or whatever. But I would expect corner, because, it's generally you're going to have a pile of guys to choose from, and that's when you go with your need. And so if a corner is in the group of guys that, if it's corner, defensive tackle, whatever, I think they go corner. So I would kind of expect early and often, that is to say within the first 2 picks, I would kind of think there would be a corner. And I would also be a little surprised if there aren't 2 selected at some point. That's kind of saying a lot. But it feels like, as much as we all have been talking about, all the other positions of need, the offensive line and everything else, the Packers, or Gutekunst in particular, the Packers, they've all just kind of had this attitude toward it. Like, it's just not a big deal. Don't really care. Everything's fine. Corner, though, is the one that just keeps coming up as being a big need, that something needs to be addressed. So I'm just going to trust Gutekunst as far as, like, these are his words, so I'm going to assume that he means it. We didn't do much to address it. I don't think St. Juice is any kind of a real solution. Not to say he's bad. It's just, he's a kind of a stopgap. He's a guy that fits the scheme. He's a guy that has some familiarity with the scheme, and so it'll work in that capacity. But he is not a long-term solution, and he's not any kind of a premier guy. And so, yeah, I think if I had to point at, and it's been the same answer since day one, but if I had to point at a position, I think that's one. Not a lot has changed. However, I do think offensive line, unfortunately, is not going to be as big of a need. I think you could argue for interior a little bit, but not much, because Banks has been committed to, Morgan is committed to, Belton is maybe a little iffy, but I think relatively committed to. Sean Ryan is the only guy that's kind of, again, I think you could have that conversation of Sean Ryan versus Belton at guard, and then Sean Ryan versus whatever center we draft there. But it's also possible we just really don't invest super heavily in that position, unless, unless something just kind of comes up. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that all goes. Again, I would lean maybe a little heavier toward running back as being an option, just looking in the long term. And by long term, I mean like next year. But otherwise, yeah, it's kind of same old, same old. All right, we'll take our final break, and we got Drew from Green Bay.
Hey, Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay, and about the naming rights. So I was asking Brock and doing some research, and basically it sounds like stadiums get about $10 to $30 million per year based on naming rights, and that indoor training facilities will bring in about 10% of that.
Yeah. Like $1
So,
million
you
bucks.
know, if you get about $10 million for your stadium, your practice facilities about naming rights would be about $1 million per
Right.
year. And you could get it a little higher if you package it with Title Town and all of that. But, on the other hand, like, if you could get up to like 30 million, you know, for Lambeau, if that's what the value is, then you're talking more like 3 million for Don Hudson Center. But I just like the Don Hudson Center is, I think we should sell that out. Like, nobody really cares about that name. It's not even a good name, in my opinion. It is nice to recognize Don Hudson,
Sure.
but it's a long name. It's clunky. It doesn't flow. And,
Stupid name.
in my opinion. And it's just not going to bring in a lot of revenue. And comparatively, so what I would say about Lambeau Field is obviously it's cool to have, you know, Lambeau be Lambeau, but I would be open to selling the naming rights if the Packers can get enough for it. And I know that's like probably really unpopular and the masses aren't going to care what the Packers get for it. But there's a thing that, you know, so it's about 7 million more a year you bring in for increasing your tickets about $10. But there's revenue share where you have to sell 34% of the revenue has to go to the visiting team. So you're really only gaining like 4.5 million. So if you get 30 million a year for your naming rights, that's the equivalent around of like raising your tickets like $60. That's significant.
Sure.
Now, if you can only get 10 million, that's like raising your tickets $20. That's not really significant to me. I mean, I think it would be interesting if the Packers put up like a volunteer fund and let people give money to protect the rights and see what people want to give each year.
Right.
I saw someone post that. I know the Packers would probably never do that, but I do think that would be interesting because you get people all over the world throwing in, you know, a couple bucks here, and yeah, all of a sudden you have like 10 million, 20 million, you know, and you keep it Lambeau, and that'd be like run by the fans. That'd be pretty cool actually. But anyways, I mean, you kind of already said, but I just want to give my.
Yeah, there is a part two, but you mentioned the direct kind of correlation with the, like the ticket prices. In other words, it's kind of as a way of not raising prices. I think Packer fans would, I mean, they'll definitely piss and moan about prices. There's no question about it. But I also think that if you told them directly that, you know, that they would be, in other words, either we raise the ticket prices $60, which would feel outrageous, but you know, whatever. Or we change the naming rights. Packer fans would be a unanimous vote. Nobody would say screw it, just change the rights. Nobody's saying that. So, and it wouldn't need to be that big of a raise. I mean, they could find, again, you know, we could change the naming rights to a handful of other things and do this, you know, a little bit of ticket, which is, by the way, exactly what they said. We're going to do a couple of these things over here with the naming rights. We're going to raise the ticket prices a little bit over here. We're going to explore some more things over here, and then that'll kind of offset everything, and we'll be okay. So, again, if we ever got into the conversation of doming the stadium or changing the naming rights to Lambeau, my immediate thought would be we are in some serious trouble because this is the frickin' Alamo. I would hope so, anyways, because it should be the absolute last thing that you do. And again, like I talked about on the podcast, on the show, all these things are still kind of a drop in the bucket. Now, the good thing about the naming rights is it is residual. You're paying, you know, as long as the naming rights are there, you're getting paid every year as opposed to the equity stakes or whatever. But again, you're talking about like $1 billion you can raise. Do you know how long you have to have naming rights for $25 million before you get to $1 billion? I don't feel like doing the math on that. It's a very, very long time. So, longer than I'll probably be alive would be my guess. But, you know, again, it's a drop in the bucket, and it's just not worth it if you can find ways to raise money through something else, would be my thought. Drew, part 2.
Ryan, Drew from Green Bay, part 2. I actually forgot something. So
right.
I did want to mention that I wonder if part of this is, it could be that Ed Policy is trying to lay the groundwork, and to some extent I'm sure it is, to, let fans know this is coming. But at the same time, I wonder if it's a message to the NFL, like, hey, let's start getting some of this under the salary cap. And, maybe not have it be even within the same salary cap. Maybe you have a salary cap for the players and then like a cap for, your coaching and training staff. And that'd be a separate cap that gets negotiated separately. Whatever it is. I don't know how that would work with the CBA, but and then the other idea I had is, right now we have that reserve fund, but the thing is that reserve fund is supposed to be for like if there's a lockout and there's no football or something, all our operations are covered for a year. But like, what if maybe we should make another fund that is there for our signing bonus fund so that we can keep our lockout fund, and then we have this other fund to just constantly have our, signing bonuses covered, and, you just put it in escrow. So, I think that would be interesting too. Maybe we already have that and I don't know about it, but I wanted to add that. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I would guess there's going to be, and probably already have been, some discussions about this. The salary cap is there for a reason. And if there becomes some kind of a disadvantage where teams can't compete because some, again, it's the same philosophy behind the salary cap to begin with. You want to make sure that you can't have uber rich people come in and use their money to an unfair disadvantage. And if you have somebody with a coaching staff that has, 50% more coaches and 50% higher training staff and, and a massive analytics department and all this stuff, whereas somebody else has a bare bones thing and they're not able to keep up, I think there has to be some kind of a discussion. Not to mention, you would assume that you're going to have owners that are like, look, at the end of the day, this is a business, and you don't want to get into this situation where it becomes an upward spiraling bidding war where we all have to spend our entire nest eggs on these franchises just to be able to keep up with everybody else who's doing it. Let's put a cap on this thing so that none of us are spending way too much money, and we're all just kind of clipping along just fine. It's unnecessary what we're doing here. So I don't understand why you wouldn't have a cap on it. Again, I think it's the exact same philosophy as a salary cap for players. I don't know. And I think it could make things kind of interesting. It would be difficult because it's not like as public or whatever. I don't know if it would become that where we would start to see coaches and whatever, or if it would just be kind of a behind the scenes thing that we wouldn't be able to see it and we would just hear from the GM like, we ran into some administrative cap issues and so we weren't able to sign the people that we wanted or whatever. It would add a fun little dimension to everything, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds to me like it's becoming a problem with the spending. And so as it becomes more and more of a problem, and as these teams, because again, this is kind of a new thing where they're building these massive mega stadiums that have these massive complexes that bring in massive revenue, and they can turn around and use that revenue and pour it back into their organizations. Now, the pushback is going to be from these people that have spent $10 billion out of their own pocket to be able to bring in the revenue, to be able to pour it into the team, and then have the NFL come out and go, oh, never mind, you can't actually use the money that you just spent to... it's obviously still going to go into the guy's pocket, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of hard to look at somebody who, again, like Kroenke or whatever, that spent $10 billion of his own money to develop this thing, to turn his franchise into a freaking powerhouse. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. It doesn't sound to me as of right now that the Packers are looking to do that. Maybe it's because they don't want to. Maybe it's because they realize it's a fruitless battle, or maybe the conversation's happening behind the scenes and we just can't hear it. I don't know. But it's starting to make more and more noise, so we'll see if anything pops up over the coming months, years, whatever, on this topic. But anywho, it's already after 10 o'clock. We should probably get out of here so I can get this uploaded. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.